Like eventually, we're going to have to deal with the fact of what happens if you push bad code, right? Or what happens if you push better code, right? You deployed a feature, now you deployed a new feature. If we look at the cache policies, we can go ahead, we hit edit. So we're redirecting. We can actually go in here and view this caching policy. And you can see basically the default setting. So minimum, cache things for a second. Maximum, I don't know, let's say a year. And by default, cache everything that goes through all those CloudFront edge nodes for 24 hours, right? So what happens if you push a new version of the page? And yeah, you've theoretically fingerprinted your bundles, right? But you know it has the same file name no matter what? Well, index.html, right? They load index.html, that loads the right main.sha.js, or whatever your build system spits out. So that becomes tricky, which is we need to say, CloudFront, forget everything you know about index.html. And there's a few ways you can go about doing this. And one of my current coworkers and I kind of had this discussion about which is the right way to do it. I think probably both have different sets of trade-offs, and you get to choose. For him, he wanted to basically have index.html have a much shorter time to live, right? Figure everyone who visits is caching that one, right? So give it a 5 second, a minute, 5 minute TTL, right? So basically, when we say those edge nodes, the first person who hits an edge node that doesn't have the file pays the cost to go all the way back to Amazon and get it, and then everyone else keeps it. CloudFront by default will say 24 hours, right? And then we can play this whole game again, and the one person will eat the time to go all the way back to Virginia to go get the file, right? So he kept a low one for index.html and then very high for the rest of the files, right? Because that's the only one that's changing. Everything else is fingerprinted, so on and so forth. I kept it high for everything, right? And I'll show you the one weird trick to get around this in a second. So you can change these as much as you want. The other thing that you can do is if you go over here to, back to the behaviors menu, this is the default behavior, right? You could create a new behavior for like /index.html, right? And you could, say all the same things. And you could set a different policy for just that file. Or you might say that like, OK, for the index page, I want this. For images, though, keep them for a year. Like we know that there's no way to replace an image in our app. Hypothetically, like whatever the app you're working on is, you might say, OK, images or anything in the images directory or that goes to the images bucket, you might keep your images in a different bucket. That we know that there's no way to replace them. There's only a way to upload. Fine, cool. Keep that for a lot longer. A lot of this will depend on the nature of your application, and that's totally fine. And you can figure that all out for yourself. But you can actually have different sets of cache rules for different kinds of files. You can set those up here as well. So you can, if you really want to, you can create a different one. If you are on the belief system that you should have a different one for index.html, that will totally work as well. But let's come down to the idea that OK, let's say you set it to 10 minutes. But somebody pushed bad code. Totally wasn't you. I always say yeah, who pushed it, but who also code reviewed it? Because it's usually the first person who blames whoever wrote the code is the one who code reviewed it. And even 5 or 10 minutes is not acceptable to you. In that case, you have something that we like to call invalidations. That's not just a mean thing you say to your friends. That is a thing that means something in CloudFront. So an invalidation is basically a way to tell CloudFront, hey, forget everything you know about that file. I don't care if the time to live was 5 years. I don't think you can have a 5-year time to live, but you know what I mean. Just forget it. Wipe it from your memory like the movie Men in Black, right? Where they see an alien and then it's just totally gone. That's basically what we want to do to CloudFront. And I kind of made a joke about this earlier. One of the ways we can do this, we can hit create invalidation. And you can type in all of the different paths that you should forget about. The limitation here is you get 1,000 of them for free. After that, it's like fractions of a fraction of a cent, right? Or something along those lines. But the interesting part is that you can use wildcards, right? So firing off 10 invalidations for 10 different file paths is 10 invalidations. That's one, right? So what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and that still hasn't deployed. We will investigate. If that is still broken in a second, we will go and investigate that because that should work. But yeah, things are weird. So we'll take this site, and I'm going to open it up in my browser real quick, or my code editor. And I'm going to search for the word indigo. And I'm going to change all instances of indigo to pink. All right. And at that point, I'm going to do a npm run build. And I'm just going to effectively deploy a new version of it. And we'll do all right, unless I've messed something up. Still blue. I also should have validated with localhost to see if I actually turned it pink and saved the file, but I'm willing to believe that's not my issue right now. But it's blue. Why is it blue? Because CloudFront has it cached for 24 hours, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll make an invalidation like we threatened to earlier. We'll say invalidate everything. And now you can see it's in progress. Like I said, it's going to 300 edge nodes. It's really cool, right, that this works at all. If it takes a little bit of time, we're totally into it, right? Like if you think about that, you just spun up the ability to distribute your application like around the world. And yeah, sure, we can make some fun of the UI sometimes. Still pretty cool technology under the hood. I am impatient, so I am going to go hit refresh. And you can see now it is pink because I invalidated the cache. I got a fresh version, so on and so forth. So that is invalidations. One of the places that we're going to use it is when we build a CI/CD pipeline, right? That way, we're going to say, hey, when you deploy a fresh version, what I want you to do is to go ahead and send out an invalidation when the new version has been uploaded.